How do you deal with your intention and action gap, right? And trying to bridge that gap. Yeah, so who you intend to be and the action, the act of who
Yeah.
you are, right? And being in that gap. I think a lot of us find ourselves in that gap, right?
Correct.
And the reason why we find ourselves in that gap is because we are considering so many other people instead of ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you have to actually be honest with yourself, it might mean that you lose relationships. I always used to think I'm special. Like back in the day, like I used to
agree.
think I'm special,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, now I'm different. Like
Yes.
something. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
It was the fact that you had a positive sense of identity. You felt like you were worthy. You were hopeful. You felt like you were worthy.
There's something to live for.
There's something to live for.
Yeah.
That's what's carried you. That's what makes you so ambitious.
Sure.
By the way, not a lot of people actually have that feeling.
I was about to say.
And I didn't know that,
Yeah.
right? I had no distinctions.
Oh, I had distinctions.
Well done.
You had no distinctions and you went to medical school.
We'll talk about that.
Okay. Hello, Wisdom and Wellness family. We have got your fave today. Our fave, in fact. She's a dedicated medical doctor, public health advocate, digital creator, founder of Clueless Moms, podcaster mom, soon to be wife, and the most relatable person on TikTok. Our chomi, Dr. Lekalakala. Dr.
Chomi.
Katlego. How are you, choms?
I'm good. I'm really, really good.
Are you
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
How
It's
does
good
it-
to be back.
Oh yeah, actually, the last time you were here, we were talking about finances,
Yes.
which was quite interesting. I think you can't help but be personal. That's just who you are.
It is.
But people really enjoyed it, and now we're just gonna have a nice chat.
A chomi chat.
A chomi chat.
Just us.
Speaking of chomi, why chomi, and why be so honest in the way you I don't want to say deliver content, because like I watched you, there's this TikTok you're doing where you're literally getting ready and like you look like how I look, like your one t-shirt is on like this and you're just going, but you're so comfortable to put yourself on camera like that. Why?
Because I'm me. I don't want to have this pressure of being something else that I'm not.
Yeah.
Maybe because I've lived under that pressure for quite some time. So being a chomi, I think, is the best way for me to really connect with people, because that's my one objective.
Yeah.
Main objective actually with using social media, right?
Yeah.
We've gone from connecting with each other in person and now we're connecting with each other on social media. And I really feel that people, including myself, are not looking to connect with people who want to always sell us an image.
Correct.
So I don't have the time. I genuinely don't have the time to sell an image. It's not naturally me, right? I am messy, I'm clumsy, I'm a perfectionist, I have anxiety.
Yeah.
I love my daughter, I love speaking about my man, and I'll never change that. And I think presenting myself this way is me owning myself in the space where you can easily lose yourself and other people start to write your script.
Yeah.
I don't want to have that. I feel like I've already done that in reality for a very long time.
Yeah.
So when I had social media, I was like, I am going to take charge.
Yeah.
And how I present myself needs to be comfortable and easy for me, that I don't feel that I need to put on a wig. I need to, I still use the filter. I need to say, give it a filter.
It's levels.
It's levels though.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm not completely vulnerable, but yes.
But I think it's a start. I started with the whole filter thing, because but I've never really used heavy filters. But
Yeah.
And then I realized this one time when I was about to take a video and I didn't have a filter on, and I'm like, I don't like how I look, and I started having a problem with that, and also with having children. And at the time, my kids and I would play with filters, and then whenever we'd take a picture, she'd be like, "Mommy, put that filter on." I'm like, this is not gonna end up well. So for me, it started with the filter, and then it became about my podcast, and we had a conversation about the podcast, how I appear, because I started feeling pressure that I need to have this type of makeup, this type of hair, these kind of outfits. And like you said, like it's so exhausting, and it takes the joy away from everything you're doing. But the way you present yourself, using that word lightly, is that how you are now with your own life personally, or you are hoping it just translates, like to just really be able to show up as yourself all the time?
I think personally, especially in the last few years, let's say from age when I met Dumelo, right?
Yeah.
Because Dumelo started to become kind of like that safety net, which
Yeah.
made being vulnerable a little bit easier because I had a security blanket. Does that
Gotcha.
make sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I show up as myself with this person who I deem important, or relationship I deem important, I was being loved, I was being celebrated, I was being embraced. Then it kind of like filtered into my reality, how I present myself with my friends and so forth. I'm still learning though.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all are.
Yeah, I'm still learning, but with the people that I'm very close to, yes, I have that. But I even spoke about this, was a question I asked, right? I went to an event
Yeah.
where there was Robin Sharma
Yeah.
there, right?
My
And the
fave.
question I asked him was, how do you deal with your intention and action gap, right? And trying to bridge that gap. Yeah, so who you intend to be and the action, the act of
Yeah.
who you are, right? And being in that gap. I think a lot of us find ourselves in that gap, right?
Correct.
And the reason why we find ourselves in that gap is because we are considering so many other people instead of ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you have to actually be honest with yourself, it might mean that you lose relationships. Right. So
Not even might. It
yeah.
means.
It means.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it means.
It means.
It means. So I am still grappling with that. There's some points I've made the leap,
Yeah.
right? And that's where people will speak about boundaries and so forth.
Yeah.
But I'm still in that gap. So I'm not completely myself with everyone. I'm
Yeah.
not completely honest to myself with everything.
Yeah.
Especially like friendships. Yeah, friendships is like
A tricky
it's
one.
an odd
We're going to
one.
get into it. We're going to talk about friendships. But I want to know, what about your upbringing? I think we did touch a little bit about your upbringing in our last conversation, but I do want you to just go in a little more. What about your upbringing has informed the way you show up, one, as a woman? And I don't know if you've done one of those memes where you say, oh, I love being a girl, or something like that. And it's like, it's the makeup and all of that. But also as a mother, and I think you're so honest about those roles. What about your upbringing has informed how you show up?
Yeah, so my mom definitely,
Yeah.
watching her, she's the most vulnerable person ever.
Really?
Yes, she
Okay.
is. She is. She is this first safety net before Tumelo,
Yeah.
right? My mom has always presented as herself. I feel like I got an opportunity to see her awakening, and it was a beautiful thing to witness, right? My mom before seemed very contrived, seemed very stoic, seemed very controlled.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then
Is this in your earlier years?
yes, my
Yeah.
earlier years. So this was before the age of 8.
Okay.
Right? And I never felt like I could ever connect with her.
Yeah.
I felt that the only way I could connect with her is by being the best version of myself.
Are you a firstborn?
No, I'm the last born.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the
Continue.
last born. But I'm the first one she raised.
Okay.
Because
Got
she
you.
raised my sister with my gran, right?
Okay.
And she didn't even really like fully raise me. She raised me with a community of friends. Because
Yeah.
my mom was always busy. She's very ambitious, all of that. So I see this woman as someone that I can only connect to if there's an achievement element to me,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that kind of brings in the overachiever side of
Yeah,
me, right?
yeah.
The people pleaser side
Yeah.
of me, because my mom is never talking to me, but she'll talk to me if I have an achievement.
Sure.
Cool.
Oof.
Then what happens is we get to year 7 or year 8. Okay, year 7, we go through a very traumatic thing in our family. We were held by gunpoint. We were held hostage by
Sure.
gunpoint, right?
Yeah.
I've spoken about this on my social media, so that's why I'm comfortable sharing it.
Yeah.
And then she divorces my father. So it was like trauma.
Yeah.
It was like weird.
So this is all happening at 7, 8, and these are the most important years of your development.
Yeah, it's happening, right?
Sure.
I'm forming my voice then,
Yes.
as you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm starting to hear myself.
Correct.
In spaces, right? So I'm forming my identity.
Sure.
So then we have to move, and we moved many times. So during that phase, there was no opportunity for her to uphold this controlled or contrived version of herself. Unfortunately, reality was making her break down those walls. And then I got to see her. I got to really experience her, because nothing was
Sure.
controlled anymore.
Yeah.
Your where you live is not controlled anymore. You don't have your relationship anymore. You're not married anymore. Now you need to investigate, who am I? I'm 37 years old. Yes, I'm 37 years old. I've got 2 children. I've got a teenager who's quite rebellious, but the greatest. My sister's the best, by the way.
Yeah.
But she was also just trying to form herself. I've got the 7-year-old, and now I'm divorced. Like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
So watching that, watching that experience, my mom dealing with pain, my mom dealing with identity crisis in terms of friendships, losing money. It was
starting over.
It was beautiful for me personally because it taught me to be vulnerable.
I was about to say it sounds like a gift.
It was.
And I
thank her every day for that.
It sounds like a gift. And sometimes we like to idolize the word growth, becoming, best version of yourself. And we think it's going to come with a little brush of blush. But actually the most beautiful moments, like you say, it's when you lose yourself and you lose everything. It's actually when you start finding your core and becoming like you experienced.
And she became so soft. Sure. So it was in that softness that we started to have conversations. Now we're talking about things that not a lot of people speak about. And that relationship has carried me through so much. And her being that, it's like, it's such a gift. I tell her all the time because I can imagine she had an idea of who she was going to be, what she was going to achieve, what she was going to do. You know, all these things. And it wasn't the reality. And I think when she looks at herself, she sometimes sees herself as a failure. But I always say to her, you succeeded and you see it and God will bless you through us. Sure. I keep telling her that. And, and she is kind of seeing that. Yeah.
How did you, during your teenage years, when all of this is happening, I'm sure there's constant anxiety because of being held hostage, your parents not being in the same household. As a teenager, how did you find safety? Because I think I can imagine how you could have easily rebelled in a way that could have taken your future, right? Where you get to that point where you're 35 and you're like, okay, I've messed up. But I think you kind of figured it out quite soon, quite early. What do you think held that together? What gave you that level of safety that just because 1, 2 happened doesn't mean my life is over?
It's your sense of self. So even at the work that I'm doing right now, right? I don't know if you know this. I work with the project Get Ready.
Yeah, I remember you told me about it last year when it was still kind of happening.
Very important. Yeah, very important to us. And a huge part of the work that we're doing is focused on teenage identity.
Oh man!
Because if you have a strong sense of identity, what can that do for you? What can it open up for you? Right? I always used to think I'm special. Like back in the day, like I used to think I'm special, right?
Yeah.
Like, now I'm different. Like something. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
It was the fact that you had a positive sense of identity. You felt like you were worthy. You were hopeful. You felt like you were worthy.
There's something to live for.
There's something to live for. Yeah. That's what's carried you. That's what makes you so ambitious.
Sure.
By the way, not a lot of people actually have that feeling.
I was about to say.
And I didn't know that. Yeah. Right. So that's what is now going into the work that we're doing. But going back to your question, right, with me, I did rebel.
Okay.
I had to. I'm a teenager.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I partied.
Me.
My mom once found me at Hatfield Square, slapped me right in the face.
Oh, you've also been slapped? Me too.
Of course.
I was slapped at 14 and I never ever partied again. I got the message. Yeah.
Oh no, I partied for life. I still party now.
Oh no.
No, I partied. So, but then it was in collaboration with her. It was according to her rules.
Okay.
She had a policy.
I love that word, in collaboration.
Yeah, it was in collaboration. She knew I had this need, and I will definitely I have to give it up to my mom for that, because she had anxiety as a mom of my safety, right? But she realized, and I think she realized it with raising my sister, that if I hold her back, she will do worse.
Sure.
Right. Oof. My sister didn't do bad, by the way. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that if you hold them back, that's when they are more curious, and their curiosity does not involve you, does not involve that level of responsibility.
Firstly, I feel like you're dropping so many things, and every time you say something, I just want to stop because you're just giving so many gems on motherhood. You're giving gems on collaboration in parenting. You're giving gems on, like you said something that there's a curiosity, and if it does not involve the parent, either way,
it's gonna be there.
it's gonna be there.
But you need to involve the parents. So this is something also with understanding the teenage brain that you need to understand, right? Neurophysiologically, they're not like adults. You know how they always speak about the prefrontal cortex and all that stuff? It is true. It is actually true. So teenagers utilize their emotional centers, right? The amygdala and so forth, to make decisions. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's also very important that you don't just push them away and say, you don't know anything. They are curious to know. However, what they're going to utilize as a tool to understand what they are curious about might not always be the safest for them. That's where, as a collaborator, as a parent, you come in and say, Chomi, you know,
I understand
my
prefrontal
cortex is here, and I know I have evidence.
Sure.
Because we work on evidence based.
Sure.
The way you're rational, the decisions that you make is rational because you have evidence. You once were curious, you made mistakes, or you see what's around you.
You
right?
know that the fire burns.
Aha.
Yeah.
So that's what actually helped me as a teenager, is that I then had access to my mom.
Okay.
So I had access to that of bringing me back to center, and she was someone that I centered around me. So making her happy was very important to me at that time.
I want to throw in this question that where do we draw the line? Because there's, my parents allowed me to do everything and I wish they were a little more strict. And then there's the other side of my parents were too strict. And it sounds like your mom found a kind of a good balance that worked out. So where do we draw the line between allowing the emotions and not shutting them down? Because I think when you grow up with parents too strict, then you don't understand your emotions. You learn to shut them down, right? And so my question to you really is, what is I guess a better balance? There's no perfect way of doing it, but what's a better balance? Because I think we're speaking to teenage parents now.
Yeah, we are. So obviously I'm not raising a teenager, but I used to be a teenager, and that's what I will say to you.
And you've got medical background.
Cool. But I mean, besides that, let's not even put the expertise in it, right?
Yeah.
You used to be a teenager.
Yeah.
So be honest. I think honesty is the actual thing.
Sure.
Be honest. Be honest about what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
If you are looking at things, you taught me this, from a lens of scarcity, then you are going to be fearful.
Oh, okay.
Or you're going to overdo.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You're going to be fearful if, let's say, from scarcity point of view, you're going to be fearful that your child will never reach there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or the other side where you're doing too much, you're going to be fearful that you're losing you're going to lose your relationship with your child, right? You're not your child's friend.
Yeah.
Right. But there's different roles that you can play in that relationship. Even with our partners, even with your romantic partner, I always say this to people, that you need to realize that even your dynamic in your relationship will have to sometimes shift.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to be the romantic partner, but sometimes you're going to be a caregiver. Sometimes you're going to be a parent, in a sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to be a sibling.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to be a friend.
You're all
With a parent, I think it's also very important. But it starts with honesty. Be honest with yourself. I also used to like this thing. Oh, I'm very scared of this. And you know, when you're honest with teenagers, they help you guide the relationship as well.
Yeah.
And then you have that collaboration. My mom's honesty is what changed everything. She was vulnerable with me. Yeah. She shared everything. She didn't hide things from us. She once sat us down. I'll never forget this. She once sat us down with a budget and said, guys, not saying, I cannot man. She sat us down with a budget and said, this is how much money I get in. That's when I started learning finances, by the way. This is how much money I get in. This is what it does. This is why I'm stressed.
Sure.
This is why this is going to happen. They're going to repossess the car, which we went through. This is why it's happening. Obviously I didn't like the situation, but she involved me in it, which allowed me to trust her, which also means that when she gives me, when she reprimands me or she gives me advice, I'm willing to take it because I trust her.
You trust her.
Yeah. But where does trust come from? Honesty.
I love how you share that. And I see why it's such a gift that your mom went through what she went through because she had no choice but to be honest. It's like,
I'm not
listen, there's no picture to hold up. It is what it is. And secondly, we've had this conversation, but I never saw it in parenting. It's either you leading from love or from fear. And from fear is when you overdo, when you over bombard. And another way from fear is when you hold on too much. But when there's love, there's honesty, there's vulnerability, and there is trust. I want to ask, you work a lot with teenagers now that you're here. And I believe the most of the group you work with, that's where you kind of identify that a sense of self-identity or understanding is not always prevalent, right?
No, it's not. And it's not easy. It's kind of a soft marker.
What do you think differentiates the child who... Not all kids, let me find a way to phrase it. Not all kids who come from well-off families have a good self-confidence, right? And vice versa. So what do you think separates the child who gets to have a good sense of self from the one who doesn't have a good sense of self?
Community.
Oh.
The environment, yeah. So, we were speaking about this the other day, right?
I'm glad you understood my question because I was struggling to put it together.
Yeah, the work that I do, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like,
but we know what we're trying to get.
Right?
Yeah.
So what you're asking me is, how do you get a good sense of self?
Yes,
What
circumstances.
What contributes to it? Yes.
Correct.
Because you do have circumstances that you have to think about.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this is the actual thing that we're grappling with in terms of just talking about, where does identity actually sit? When we look at a teenager, does it sit under agency and resilience, or does it sit with agency and resilience?
Sure.
Okay. So how I look at it is, your community is very important.
Yeah.
And community doesn't mean a lot of people. It can even be one person. Who are you connected with, and what kind of information are they giving back to you? What kind of environment are they creating for you?
Sure.
Let's give you an example. In a school, right? We have enabling factors. So we have teachers, we have infrastructure, and all those things. If those are not there, a child can't actually learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But their motivation to learn is not determined by that. Right? It's determined by their sense of self, but you can contribute to it as a teacher.
Sure. Okay.
If you create an environment where a child feels that I can fail and get up and I can do better, or I can make a mistake and still be given an opportunity to do better, they start to feel a little bit better
like
about
they matter.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. And they also are more willing to engage, which gives them an opportunity to actually explore themselves, which is very important. Exploration is also very important, where then you will have more of a developed sense of identity.
Sure.
Because identity is a development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 points that you mentioned. The first one is engage. I think we undermine how important it is to have engaged children, especially teenagers, and engage in a sense that sometimes we think just because they don't talk a lot, they don't go out, they're not out there in personality wise, then they're good. But it's like, that is I guess that can also give an indication of, check your child. Are they engaged with what's happening around them, with what they're doing, with how they're growing? That's the first thing I picked up. And the second thing I picked up from what you're saying is that identity and self-confidence is not because of what they achieve.
No.
It's a matter of saying, it's creating a safe environment where you can make a mistake. And if you're allowed to make a mistake, then you can engage, then you can grow through it, then you can discover who you are. And that essentially builds identity. Like you said, identity is developed over time. Our identities are still developing, am I correct?
Yeah.
Sure.
Your sense of self, your sense of self-worth. And I love that you speak about the child that is quiet.
Yeah.
Because this is even something that I speak to when I speak to educators, that it's very important that you don't pick on the quiet one, but you create an environment that is inclusive.
Correct.
That includes them. Because once they can start to hear their own voice, they know how to connect with themselves better.
Yeah.
And then overall, they know how to then contribute to the greater society.
Sure. Love that. What inspired, it's Beats by Kaz, right? Beats by Kaz.
Don't call me Cats.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And I was writing down my notes. And I'm like,
Kaz.
Kaz, Cats, Kaz. What inspired starting Beats by Kaz? Then Clueless Moms, and then now the route you took in your profession. You could actually be on call. You could be in the hospital. You could have your own practice, but you are busy with teenagers.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, let's talk about Beats by Kaz. Beats by Kaz, my mom on her 40th birthday was gifted with a makeup set. But you know those makeup sets that used to sit in Discam and Clicks?
Yeah.
So they had everything. Then that
Yeah.
was the problem. They had blush, lipsticks, and everything.
Eyeshadow.
Eyeshadow. They were never for our color, ne? So she never really wanted to engage with it, right? It's so nice. Oh, I love this conversation because I'm also like going back and like realizing my mom becoming a girl.
Yeah.
You know, like getting into girlhood. So she didn't want to play with that. She was still comfortable with foundation. She was still trying to find out her foundation.
Got you. This is at 40.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this at
yeah,
40.
yeah.
So the nice part is that I was then also included in that process where she's trying to find her girlhood. She's trying to get makeup. She's building her confidence again.
Yeah.
And she's bringing me with her to start off first and whatever. But with that makeup palette, I would sit at home. I would play with that thing.
Sure.
There was even a show. I can't remember if it was a TLC or what. There was a show where they used to transform people.
Yes, TLC. I think it was TLC.
No, I think the channel actually went away. It was when
I
they
don't know
launched
now.
E-Entertainment. They launched them all at once.
I know
It
what
was
you're talking
exciting.
about. Yes.
They would have a segment in between. Ne?
Yeah.
In that segment, you show me. That segment was amazing. In that segment, they had a makeup artist. I don't remember who the makeup artist was. I ran like, quick.
Yeah.
5 minutes eyeshadow,
Yeah.
whatever. So I would play and whatever. And then I would take it to school. And the beauty, I love that life is a circle. The beauty of it is there was a transgender child in our school, and I would do makeup on her.
Sure.
Quite a lot.
Sure.
And I guess that has also fed into my work right now. Hey, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that's how Beast by Cat started.
So you weren't trying to create a business. You were just discovering.
I love makeup, and I still do.
With mom. Yeah.
I love it. And then I needed a financial, another financial avenue. I needed some sort of an income because we were struggling at home at some point.
This is while you're in medical school.
Yeah. We were struggling at some point. And then that's when the business came out of the passion. And that's why the business does not exist anymore, but the passion still exists.
Yeah, because the need was met. The need was met.
Yeah, the need was met. I got my income.
Okay, Clueless Moms.
Clueless Moms, my journey. Yeah, I speak about this a lot. I had quite a tumultuous journey. I felt very isolated in it because of our African customs. You keep quiet, hush, hush, whatever. Nobody in my family understood what I was going through. I wanted to speak about it. It was so cool that DJ Zintle actually spoke about her going through the same thing I went through on her show. That was the only thing. However, all I had when I was on bed rest and dealing with this issue was YouTube, right? And on YouTube, all I saw were white women from America and England that didn't make me feel really like I could really resonate with it. Yeah, I could relate, but I couldn't resonate. And remember, I was watching it because I wanted to have some sort of hope that I will get out of my situation. So I was searching things like emergency cyclage. So just to give you a bit of a background, I had to have a stitch to maintain my pregnancy, to preserve my pregnancy, right? Because my cervix was opening up before the time.
Which I'm finding is more common than not. It's quite, because I can think of a few women I know in my space who've gone through that. And at first it was shocking, but then I realized someone else went through it, and I'm like, this is not a conversation, but it's actually happening. I didn't even know the name for it.
Right?
Exactly.
It's called cervical competency, okay, I forgot the word.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm going through that, and then all I see is white women speaking about it, but I'm not getting the story from a black person, so I don't really trust. Yeah. Right? And then I started to speak about it. And once my child was deemed safe, I started to speak about the fact that I was isolated, and then I felt clueless. And then a lot of other women came in and said, I also feel clueless about this. And then we called ourselves the Clueless Moms, right?
Yeah.
But the beauty of that is, and I spoke about this once, that this is where the power of vulnerability comes in. I had the opportunity to really connect with them, which meant that I was also able to identify their needs.
Yeah.
And that's why Clueless Moms is a program, and with everything else that I do, that's what actually really inspired it.
Yeah. It's always personal. I think purpose is always personal. It's it's very hard to have impact if you haven't experienced something, because then you lack empathy. But if you know what the pinch feels like, you're able to empathize and bring well thought out solutions, because you know exactly what this feels like.
But the issue with that sometimes is that you can kind of get lost in your own pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes pain has a different face. So I'm also just trying to get out the mud of looking at Clueless Moms only from my lens. So now we have a committee.
Oh, wow.
So I've got like 8 women or 7 women.
Yeah.
I think we are 8 who are helping me
Sure.
to take care of Clueless Moms in a different way, in a more holistic way, that it's not just from
Focus
my
on
lens.
you. Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
subjective, it's more objective, as objective
Sure.
as it can be.
Yeah.
They're really helping me out a lot. I really need to say thank you to them, actually.
That's
thank
beautiful.
you, Chomis.
We love Chomis. And then the route you took, I guess it's also kind of tied now to everything you're sharing. But the route in your medical route, I guess, profession, you didn't go the route you'd be expected to take. Was that intentional? Did you know that was the case, or did you see yourself wearing scrubs when you were when you were studying? Like, where did you see yourself?
Yeah, that's so funny, hey? So I wanted to be a doctor once upon a time.
Yeah.
And then that thought left my mind, and I wanted to become an actress. I speak about this.
Actress.
Chomi, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a playwright and an actress.
Wow.
It was big.
Okay.
It was a big thing for me.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah, I'm a storyteller.
I'm
really a storyteller.
Sense,
right? But God will always find a way to make it make sense.
Bring it all together,
Yeah, the pieces will come together.
Yeah.
So then I find myself in medical school. I don't have the confidence in it.
Wow.
I didn't have the confidence in myself. Yeah, throughout. I never thought I was going to be a doctor.
Sure.
Every year was a surprise. Like, we did it.
We did
it.
Look at us.
Oh, we did it. Oh, okay. Wow.
Let's keep going.
Final year.
Yeah.
I never had the confidence in medicine. And that's something I need to be quite honest about, because people think that doctors are very confident people. I did not feel confident at all. And then you see yourself in practice, and you will make mistakes, by the way. Mistakes doesn't mean killing, guys.
But I was about to say, like,
mean killing.
It's different mistakes. Like, there's a number mistake, and then there's like somebody's body kind of mistake.
It's just like there's also an element of people pleasing, where you want to always show up for your consultants or your seniors. You want to look great in their eyes as well. Where sometimes the patient can be neglected in that process. Right?
Because it's about you now.
Yeah, it's about you now. So, but I love seeing myself as a doctor. I loved it. But that's when I then realized that I'm really good at communications, because that's how I'm connecting with my patients. That's why my patients love me. I'm good with communicating with them.
Yeah.
I'm able to help them understand and have the language for the things that they're going through. And that's just played into everything that I do, then my digital content creation and so forth. So having that platform or that foundation of digital content creation and health promotion, that's what allowed me to get into Get Ready. And then when I wasn't Get Ready, I was like, this is more comfortable for me.
This is me, yeah.
I was too anxious as a doctor.
Yeah.
Too anxious. It was not livable.
Yeah.
Like I was going to die. I was going to die. Okay. I was going to die from gastritis or something like that.
Yeah.
I have never had such bad ulcerative pain than when I was a doctor.
Sure.
Like right now, it's like I'm healed.
Yeah.
It's like now that I have all this rest and all this time, I'm healed.
Sure.
It was not conducive for me. It was not conducive for my personality, but it was important in my journey. It was very important in my journey. And that's why I'll never take it away from myself.
Yeah.
It's a part of my identity. I will always call myself Dr. Katlego, whether I'm treating a patient or not. It's the type of knowledge that is necessary even in the work that I do. Because some of the work that I do, I have to think strategically.
Yeah.
You are a strategist, by the way, as a doctor.
But I mean, I even the way you just unpacked how a teenager thinks. Like I can tell that it comes from, it's like a strategic way of thinking. Like you understand the brain to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that when you're approaching these young girls from different backgrounds
and young boys, don't forget my boys.
Young girls
don't
and young
forget
boys,
my boys.
these young ones.
Yes.
These young ones, you've got background, you've got knowledge, and you've got strategy. But I want to know, did you ever have to mourn the idea that you're not going to be doctor in the scrubs the way you said you loved the idea of you being a doctor?
No.
Wow.
No. Right? Are there times where I question myself, right? If I'm going to be completely fulfilled in this, without that identity being very strong, because I mean, I'm questioned about that identity quite a lot. It's like, oh, what kind of doctor are you?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you do?
Are you a real doctor?
Are you a real doctor? Are you Dr. Malinga? Your husband actually said I was Dr. your husband actually thought I was Dr. Malinga, kind of. Yes, he didn't think I was a real doctor.
Why?
I don't know. Yeah, but maybe because, I mean,
What, you
doctors
just woke up and decided to be Dr. K?
But it happens. We've had that. We've had
got
that.
Interesting people
We've
in
got
our
interesting
country.
people in the world. So I could be that interesting person. So yes, it's that sense of identity not being that strong is something that, yes, I am grappling with. But then I made a decision, and I had to make this decision when my HR consultant asked me, "Why are you taking on this job? What is it going to do for your career going forward?"
Yeah.
And I also had to speak to my coach. So I talk to a lot of people, guys. And it will be for me to determine that identity and to reinforce myself in it, and to really say that I am comfortable in being a doctor in this way. I love the work that I'm doing. I think it's important, and I think it's important in its own way.
Yeah.
The impact that it's going to make is not going to be obvious.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I just need to be okay with, because the work that I used to do before, the impact was obvious.
And immediate.
Immediate.
Yeah.
Instant gratification. The work I'm going to do, I know for certain in my heart, and I'm telling you now, and get water, all right? I'm committing this. My work, you will only see it maybe 10 years or 20 years down the line, when you look at the landscape of teenagers and you look at the programming that's surrounding teenagers. That's where you'll see my impact.